Hello and a warm welcome to Lenzwe, the voice of Transnet. I'm your host, Kharibanyana ya Motswana Lesego Matloko, and today we're going to be talking about something that moves more than just goods, that moves more than South Africa's economy. It's our rail network safety and security. While we've made strides in improving security challenges such as cable theft, vandalism, and infrastructure sabotage, there are still things that threaten our progress. These acts don't just damage property, they delay operations, frustrate customers, and cost our nations billions annually. However, there is a team on the front lines tackling these challenges head on. And joining me today in the studio is Mr. Neil Naidu, the Acting General Manager for Security and Forensics at TRIM, which is Transnet Infrastructure Manager, the man leading the mission to keeping our corridors safe. Neil, welcome to Lenzwe. How are you?
Good morning, Lesego. And to the listeners, I'm very well. Thank you so much. And thank you for allowing us the opportunity to speak with you all today. Thank you.
Let's not waste time and get to the heart of it, Neil. So the Security and Forensic Department, right? I must imagine that it plays a huge role in protecting our network. And for the listeners internally and our stakeholders outside, those who may not know how we do things at TRIM, can you just fill us in? How does your team fit into Transnet's broader security landscape?
Thank you for that, Lesego. Yes, it's really an exciting time for us. As you know, TRIM, our Transnet Rail Infrastructure Manager, which I will use going forward to make it easier for everyone. It's a new baby that's been born out of recent strategic moves by government. We've been established only this year. As from April. So we are currently responsible for managing the South Africa rail infrastructure. Our mandate is basically to maintain the network. As you know, the network is our infrastructure that provides the opportunity to run our locomotives and our volumes and tonnages through the length and breadth of South Africa. Our objective, obviously, as the State Security and Forensics Department, is to protect all TRIM's personnel, assets, and clients' goods across our network. And by doing that, to prevent vandalism and theft, or any attack for that matter, on our network. Our focus, obviously, is to make sure that TRIM moves these volumes safely and freely without criminals and people hampering the movement of these trains. Lesego, you would know that, as you said, we're the heartbeat of this country. We provide for the movement and the logistics chain throughout the entire network. And we have a direct impact on South Africa's economy and the GDP as a whole. So we are a very big strategic partner in this. And the onus it's a huge responsibility for us to make sure that we subscribe to this and make South Africa progress in the way it should. The function, what I would say, recently taking over at the helm at TRIM Security, is about protecting, like I said, our customers, our employees, and most important, income through our integrated efforts. We safeguard the rail network against all the possible risks and threats that could disrupt our operations. And one of the key challenges we face is the theft of copper cables and overhead OHT, overhead traction equipment, and signaling systems. There's a huge demand across South Africa for copper. And in terms of supply and demand, we know that the legitimate market cannot produce enough copper. So criminals are now targeting all state-owned companies and other organizations for whichever way they could get their hands on copper. And because of our network that's so open and vast, we become an easy target for these criminals. Our key responsibilities that's been entrusted to us, often exemplified through roles like in-house and contracted security officers. Financially, Lesego, it's not possible for us to have in-house security throughout the entire network. We know there's thousands and thousands of kilometers. So we have to make use of our external partners, and often here we've outsourced a lot of our services to outsource security companies. And I would comfortably say we're currently operating on around 15 to 20% in-house versus to around 75 to 80% external service providers. We monitor and patrol all our rail network and lines to prevent unauthorized people from coming onto it. In terms of our depots and our main areas, we control access and securing premises, as well as preventing unauthorized people from coming onto our premises. We also move away from conventional guarding. We do a lot of technology intervention and installations. We have armed response teams, tactical teams out there that is supported by the likes of the police. And these law enforcement agencies are very, very important for us as they support our initiatives. And obviously in the security field, where you have crime occurring before, we also have breaches that will occur. And to close the loop, we have our own house investigation department that focuses purely on case management and ensuring that those that we do catch are not really released back into the system, but convicted in the full might of the law. And in terms of the new act, your first offense will see you getting 15 years in jail. I hope that covers most of what our mandate is in Trim, Lesego.
Neil, that sounds like a mammoth task, and you've said so much that I just want us to tackle on. And personally, I'm happy, and I know that a lot of colleagues will be happy for the fact that we are finally catching up on the open codes 4IR by embracing technology. But besides the technology, Neil, in terms of theft and vandalism and the outright sabotage, what other practical measures has your team rolled out to fight these threats and strengthen the network's resilience?
Sure. Yeah, that's like you said, it is a mammoth task, and we can't just focus on one element of crime. There's a plethora of different mitigation strategies and initiatives that we look at. And then some of them, high level, will be most important, our staff and customer management team. We have to manage and coordinate our security team across the entire South Africa. As you know, within the Trim space, we operate on 3 regions: our Eastern region, Central region, and Western region. Our most important element in Trim is our customers. Without our customers, we do not make income, we're not going to survive. And in hand with that, we have our security service providers. And until a few years ago, we've launched a new, I would say in South African term, a new concept that has been rolled out overseas as well, which we picked up on during research, is the OBS security solution, an outcomes-based security solution. And most importantly, the community where these rail lines are running. We have so many communities through this country. We have to also look at them. Then Lesego is obviously our site and our asset protection. We are looking at overseeing the security at all of our infrastructure, which includes checking the access points are secured and monitoring operations while working with the guys on the ground through the various hotspots that we have out there. We also make sure that our response to incidents is almost unparalleled to anything else. As you know, if you phone an ambulance, within 3 to 5 minutes, you want them there because it's a life-threatening emergency. We adopt the same principle. If we get informed that there's a possible incident or whatever happens on the network, we want to make sure that our response time is within a few minutes, up to maybe 5-6 minutes, so that we can get onto site quickly and prevent, number one, any attempts on our network from being vandalized, or number two, if they have managed to cut, that we're able to apprehend them before they can get away. Because let's say these are the guys that if they get away, they come back the next day. They do a day-to-day living by stealing copper. So the quicker we get them out of the system, the better. And our response to incidents are critical, that we have our deployment in line with our hotspots, in line with our operational plans and contingencies. I did speak earlier on about the OBS. This is critical for us because we do a lot of performance monitoring in terms of our security solutions. So as we have our balanced scorecards that will measure performance, so do we with our service providers and our own in-house team as well. So we do it on a regular basis. Areas where we found wanting, we have to tweak a bit, we have to adjust a bit, and we make those so that our standards are met and we keep abreast of the latest risks and threats that are out there. Moving on, obviously, importantly for us is also policy and protocol enforcement. We make sure that we work within the ambits of the law, and we also subscribe to the support that we get from all the other organizations and entities out there. Critical also is the skills sets that we place on our employees. We have to keep them up, properly trained, developed, and upskilled to such an extent that unfortunately we have to fight fire with fire. Criminals are armed. They are dangerous. They work in numbers. We cannot send our people out there in an environment where there's no lights, there's no proper tarred roads, there's heavy vegetation, to go and take on these organized gangs with a bat and stick. We have to equip our members, and that is why we also, Lesego, are getting our members equipped to be peace officers, where they'll have the same powers as a police officer in terms of arrests and so on. We've also equipped them now with the necessary hardware in terms of firearms and safety gears and so on. So that, unfortunately, like I said, it's a war out there. And we have to be prepared to take these guys heads on. Failure of which, we're not going to have a real network that's going to be left for us to protect. And I think also importantly, lastly, if I may just quickly touch on it, the whole issue of, I would call it command and control, as well as communication and coordination. We have to coordinate and speak to the other departments like the train operations, the TRIM network operations, and the infrastructure guys on the ground. Because these guys are critical when it comes to our planning, because they are out on the field, they see what's happening. And we are also looking into a few other areas, information management, where we analyze where the crime is taking place, what's the frequency of crime, what weather conditions do they operate in. So we don't want to just throw resources onto the ground as warm bodies. We want to deploy our resources in areas where we predict they're going to be hitting us. And that's how we're going to make a proper impact.
Thank you so much, Neil. I must commend your department because from our conversation, I've noticed that, as you know, one of our ethos as Transnet is the customer-based approach. And this mindset, places customers at the heart of every decision, process, and action. And throughout you explaining the whole process, I have noticed that that is what is leading the whole change in the security and risk cluster. And I must commend you and your team for that, because I believe that once we deeply understand the customer's needs, challenges, and expectations, and designing operations and culture around meeting their needs consistently, we become better. Now, Neil, if I must say, I was briefly involved in the governance side of the OBS, but to someone who has never been involved in OBS or has not even heard of OBS up until today, you know what the young says, explain to me like I'm a 5-year-old. What do you mean? What is OBS? What do we do with OBS? And what is the advantage of OBS over the conventional security tenders that we've had over there? What's different about OBS?
Yeah, I'm hoping you'll have the time, because it's quite an in-depth discussion. This. So let's say for the OBS concept was something that was considered quite a few years ago. In my tenureship when I was still at the group, as a group security manager, we were looking at that stage already. Our key focus was, what can we do to complement our normal security that's out there? What can we do to equip them, empower them to do what is out-of-the-box thinking? Then we realized that conventional guarding, as you indicate, is specifically your guy that's standing at the front door, who's checking your permit, conducting searches, and securing the premises per se. But we realized at TRIM that we're not operating in that kind of environment. We need specialized people. We need specialists. So what we did was, and take into account that we in TRIM, or we at that stage in Transnet, if I want to call it Transnet Freight Rail, before we became TRIM, did not have that capability. We had in-house staff, and we had guys, what we call crime prevention teams on the ground. So we said, but how do we tackle the terrain? How do we tackle the vegetation? Us driving aimlessly on our service roads up and down doesn't serve the purpose. A criminal is hiding in the bush. As you drive your vehicle past him, he can see you in the horizon going 10 kilometers down. He comes out at his own time, he cuts the overhead cable, he puts it into smaller pieces. By the time you get that vehicle that passed you 15 minutes ago to come back, you already got your stuff cut, packed, and loaded onto your getaway vehicle. So now what we did was on the OBS, we decided it's a concept that says, what do we want out of this contract? We want zero cable theft. We want a reliable network. So these are the outcomes that TRIM has put forward to prospective service providers to say, give us a solution. How are you going to protect the network? Number one, how are you going to identify who is stealing from us? How are you going to prevent them from stealing from us? How are you going to make sure that if they have stolen, how do we get our good stuff? So we wanted a integrated security solution for the protection of our network. So these companies went out there, especially the specialists, the big ones, and said, yes, we have an idea. We need to start, for example, with a effective command center. We need to facilitate, source, and disseminate information timeously to the operational people to allow them proper planning to go and effect arrests. Then what additional aids do you have to protect our network? So service providers came on board and said, we have a drone capability. We're able to go 15 to 20 kilometers left, 15 to 20 kilometers right, which made us realize that the information we're getting from our central information center, which directs us to a certain area, is where we're going to be deploying the drone. So should there be any movement through infrared cameras, we're able to pick up activity on the line. Number two, if they manage to cut and escape, we have the drone capability to follow them to whichever way they're going and allow our ground forces to respond and apprehend them. So we have these advantages that we had that we didn't have in the conventional guarding. And also typically to that, once the arrests are made, they have the legal people in the company that engages with the court prosecutors to make sure these guys don't get bail, to make sure they get minimum 15 years every time they go in. These guys are performance managed, which means they've been given targets to reduce crime by certain percentages year on year, failure of which they will be penalized to a certain monetary value. However, on the positive side, if they've made this and better inroads, they get rewarded for their efforts, because we know that the more effort they put in, the less incidents we have, the more we can run a train service, the more we get on our bottom line. So it's a win-win for everyone. So we've rolled out, we piloted it in some of the corridors, I think with the exception of the central and the container corridor, we rolled it out. And some areas it didn't work the way we wanted to. The service provider, although he was awarded, weren't able to produce the way we want to. But then we had recourse in the form of the contract to say you have not met your targets. You got your first warning, second warning, and we terminated the services on the North Corridor. Same thing we did recently in the Central Corridor, where we are most hit. We gave them ample time. Put your things in order. Then we realized also some of the things they promised to roll out over the first year, they didn't. And they didn't have proper intelligence, etc., etc. So again, they were also terminated. So what we're doing now, in conclusion, on that point, Lesego, is we're seeing what are the best practices. What, for example, does the Cape Corridor do? The largest corridor with 4 provinces, how are they achieving inroads and successes? And we want to drill in and deep dive on that and try and also roll it out on the other side as part of lessons learned. So when we go on tender for the other corridors for OBS, we're able to learn from that and put in additional measures so that we have a consistent approach across the network. Thanks, Lesego. I hope that answers your question on the OBS.
Neil, the one thing that's so amazing about you is that even before I get to answer questions, you're already there. But Neil, I'm very impressed with everything that you have said, and I think what gives you even more comfort is how passionate you are and how fired up you really are about this, and it really gives me hope as a Transnetter and as a South African that no, it really does indicate that our infrastructure is in good hands. Neil, over our conversation as well, there is something that I have noticed. Well, Neil, I am a Motswana girl from Rustenburg, and I normally just drift to my language rather when I need wisdom. And there's a saying that goes that Mabogo dinku atebana, Neil, which means that many hands make light work, right? So now referring to that, I'm going to talk about in terms of collaboration, because let's face it, no one can ever carry this mammoth task alone, right? So collaboration should be key. So can you kindly just share a few standard projects where your department has partnered with other people besides law enforcement agencies? And what does the partnership look like? And how are the partnerships in advancing the mission to safeguard our infrastructure?
Thanks for that, Lesego. I think I have spoken a bit to say that in isolation, some security with the service providers, even if they got OBS in place, is still not sufficient to protect the network. And I think, unfortunately, I don't want to mention another company, but you would have seen at the time of COVID, a company decided to stop its security services because the services were not running anymore and they realized they didn't need it. And within 6 months, the entire network was gone. Cables, lines, buildings, facilities, etc., etc. So what I want to just emphasize to you, if you leave something unattended, you risk the chance of losing it forever. And I think this is what we have learned in the TRIM space. Irrespective of how busy the line is, irrespective of what volumes and tonnages there are out there, we protect it. Because at some time or the other, it's our asset. So we've decided that we can't do it alone. And I spoke to you about the prosecution part and things like that. And in your introduction, Lesego, you mentioned, again, I want to say it, the lifeblood of South Africa, the heartbeat of South Africa. How do we make sure the heart keeps beating? So we got to explore every avenue. And then, number one, I think the presidency themselves took the lead to say, no, this is now getting out of hand. Why are we not meeting volumes? Why is it year on year the volumes are coming down? And we've explained the socioeconomic conditions, the poverty, the unemployment that we're facing. It's the highest that it's ever been. And people are desperate and they look at opportunities. So this gave birth to what we call the National Logistics Coordinating Committee, the NLCC, of which TRIM is a very active member. And there, Lesego, we've got South African police services across the spectrum, from the visible policing guys to the intelligence guys to the DPCI, the Hawks as we call them. We have the State Security Agency that sits there. We have the military that sits there. So all the subject matter experts on crime prevention and warfare, you want to call it loosely, are sitting there. And most important, we even have the NPA, the National Prosecuting Authority. Unfortunately, I can't give names due to the sensitivity of the exercise or project that we're in. But those are areas where we are informed. Do it like this, do it like that. When it comes to court, we're looking for this, we're looking for that to make our cases stronger. So the NLCC plays a very critical role. We engage on a monthly basis with them. It's chaired, again, by the intelligence structures. ESCOM and the other parastatals are part of it. So they help us a lot. And also, you know that in the TRIM space, we have the railway police that were reintroduced some years ago, and I think it was 1995, 96, okay, many years ago. But we have them strategically around the country. And the head office sits in the same meetings. So a lot of the deployment, a lot of the action plans are facilitated via head office. And this is where we get the support. And I'm not sure if the listeners are aware, but we also successfully managed to get a memorandum of understanding, or MOU, signed between our GCE and the National Police Commissioner, where we we got the commitment that the police will assist us through whatever means and forms to keep our systems running and to keep criminals away. So that was one, just the law enforcement part, obviously. And secondly is you look at the local, provincial and national government departments, DOT being our main shareholder, but we also deal with a lot of the other guys out there. We must remember that the location or the way our rail network runs, there's a lot of open space. Now, just driving around Gauteng, you will see how many informal settlements have been erected right next to our rail lines. And this encroachment creates a significant challenge for us. Primarily, Lesego, because organized criminals, for number one, are hiding in those same settlements. They know the people there are poor. So they pay them to say, I want to borrow your house for a month, because they want to sit there and observe how are security patrolling, where is the cables, how is the escape routes, and they do their planning. So this structures create a problem for us. In addition to that, they are using the material of the rail, our ballast and our stones, to put foundations for their structures. And what's going to happen? Your rail line becomes unstable, and we end up with derailments. Derailments is one thing. On the other side, if the train derails into that informal settlement, it's a nightmare in terms of media exposure for us, because of people that might have died due to due to the rail network that failed. So we have to keep very close with local government and provincial government, especially when it comes on the issue of environmental risks, safety risks, and things like that. I did speak about the South African Police Services, so I'm quite happy with that, because they are the lifeblood as well of all our operations. To understand the criminal mind, Lesego, what we've done as well, we've engaged with the CSIR. I think everybody knows the CSIR. They've come on board over the last couple of years and helped us do a lot of research, understanding who are these criminals, how do they operate, what is their motives, how do we put a plan together to face them on a day-to-day basis. And it was just even yesterday, we had a nice workshop with them that dealt with infrastructure protection and what are some of the inroads that we can use to tackle this kind of scourges that happen. So those supports are there. Not to mention, lastly, I would say our biggest competition are the road transport guys. Now, we know for a fact this is a threat to us, because on our strategy, we want to bring in volumes off the road back to rail. Primarily because of the congestion on the roads, primarily because of the damage they're causing on the roads, and other matters that create a problem. Heavy haul should be on the road, on the rail. The light haul should be on the road. This I agree with. So we do have engagements with them to make sure that they can also be part of the solution and not the problem. Our people on the ground understand and know that if you want to build trust and foster local support and position these communities as allies, we have to engage. Without diverging too much, I think another critical area for us, Lesego, lastly on this matter of our role players and stakeholders and so on, is the community. Now, I spoke a little bit about the informal settlements around Gauteng. You must remember, now we move a little bit further out, for example, into KZN, where our most strategic line, our coal line, is running between Mpumalanga and Richards Bay. Those are different kinds of communities there. There you have formal structures, and we know them, like you spoke in your home language. I know them as Amakhosis or the Indunas that are out there. They're the tribal chiefs, and nothing happens without their blessing. So we've placed a lot of effort with our service providers to engage with them, sign agreements with them, do a lot of things with them, that they can protect their part of the line. And in return, we see our level best how we can empower them and uplift them in terms of their growth. And I think it's brought a lot of inroads for us. We also look at community building, where certain contracts like garden services and so on, we request our service providers to look at empowering and employing local residents, because building and fostering that relationship is important for us in the future. I'll leave it for there now, Lesego. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. I think you have underpinned the importance of collaboration, but also, most importantly, dealing with issues systematically, because it doesn't help to put a band-aid over a gangrene. But just to also sing your praises, Neil, I like how you have elaborated on how advanced technology, stronger partnerships, and essentially changing public behavior is at the core of the new strategy. Now, Neil, before we wrap up, as you have said that we are nothing without the people of South Africa. We do this for them. Just in a few words, Neil, what message would you like to share directly with the public Transnetters and non-transnetters otherwise, how can ordinary citizens play their part in protecting our rail network? What should they do when they spot such suspicious activity? Is there a helpline? Is there where they can call? What can they do?
Let's say this brings to mind the famous saying, we are our brother's keeper, which means I look after you, you look after me. And that is so true in our environment as well. We've got to maintain good relationships with all our partners. But the most important, like you said, critical element here is the public. The public are the eyes and ears. And this strategy of the public involvement is followed by every single body entity out there, from the police to the hospitality industry to the emergency services. They've got emergency numbers 10111 for the ambulance 08211. There's a reason why it's there, because the public are the eyes and ears. And I'm a patriot. I'm a loyalist. I love this company. I started here straight out of school many years ago. And I want to leave a legacy before I leave. And I'm hoping that the public can fulfill that by being an active partner in securing our national infrastructure, because without which we will fail dismally. So I must be honest and tell you, we're still having significant challenges on cable theft and vandalism. It is disrupting our operations. It is having an adverse effect on our volumes and customer satisfaction levels. But we have seen some positive outcomes with the community, as I've indicated earlier, especially around certain areas that I've indicated. We want to thank the public for their ongoing support. When Transnet succeeds, the economy succeeds, as I said. Therefore, it's important that when members of the public can see something suspicious along the railway line or see criminal behavior, they report it. They report it, and we are able to act on it. And I just want to make sure that people understand that tampering or stealing with Transnet property, including copper cable, is a crime against the Criminal Matters Amendment Act. And that is a serious act that was brought into place that doesn't give you warnings. Like I said, first offense, 15 years. So it is serious, and we will make sure that if someone is caught, they will see that 15 years. So our communities do play this vital role, and I'm hoping that then just that little bit of passion and love for the country, that they can report these suspicious behaviors. They can do it anonymously as well. We don't need to know who they are. They can do it via SMS. If I may quickly provide that number, Lesego, 063 786 7403. That's for the guys that are walking with their cell phones and realize they've seen something. Send us that message. We will respond. If you can't, there's a toll-free number, which is free for you to make. It's a 0800 003 056. 24 hours of the day, people are there to receive your call. As soon as you pick up the phone and say, I can see suspicious behavior here, or there's a vehicle on the line, the guys don't look like they belong here, you phone that number. Immediately it will be dispatched to our reaction teams who will respond. And that is the role you can play. There's also a please call me number, *120 063 786 7403 #. So I've given you a few options that the members can report on. Also, Lesego, in conclusion, from my side, if I may say, they see our patrol vehicles up and down. They see visibility up and down. They can even stop and have a chat with our members on the ground. It will really help us in this fight that we are facing to ensure the survival, and I'm saying it like this, the survival of our country, because we play a seriously significant part in our economy. Thank you, Lesego.
Neil, thank you so much for the insights that you have shared with us today. And thank you so much for making us aware about a plethora of things that your department is doing to safeguard our rails. One thing for sure is that it's clear that securing our rail network is not a solo mission. However, it's a collective responsibility. And you have underpinned that every stolen cable, every act of vandalism just doesn't slow down a train. It slows down our country's growth as we are the heartbeat of the economy, like we have said. But Neil, I've also liked the fact that you've underpinned that with vigilance, innovation, and collaboration that is currently happening between Transnet, TRIM, our partners, and the public, we can surely protect the infrastructure that keeps the heartbeat of South Africa moving, which is Transnet. To our listeners, you surely can also make a difference. If you see any suspicious activity, just as Neil has said, please report it on the lines using the official channels as mentioned. And together we can stop crime in its tracks. And please follow our social media pages. You can follow our Twitter page. You can follow us on LinkedIn and our respective Facebook page. And lastly, stay alert, stay safe, and let's keep the network moving. Until next time, I'm Lesego Matloko Kgarebe ya Motswana, and this is Lenswe, the voice of Transnet. Thank you.